Hey everyone, Japanese Import here. Since I started playing the game 8 years ago, I've been ranks varying from Silver 5 to Challenger. To this day, I still learn new things all the time that constantly improve my play. There are lots of concepts that I was completely ignorant of until a few years ago in some cases, and I really had wished that someone taught them to me right away so I wouldn't have had to learn these things through painful losses and realizations over the years. So this video is here to compile together 3 of the biggest things that I wish I knew a long time ago before I started playing support. Learn from my experiences and save yourself the pain and tons of time. Let's get right into it. The first thing I wish I knew was to not value experience as much as other roles. A saying that always stuck with me was that good players know the rules and follow them, and great players know when to break them. In general, we've all been taught that getting experience is a good thing, and that's not wrong at all. In addition, sharing experience by being with a bot lane partner rewards you with 124% overall experience. Of course, that's split between 2 people, but it's more value than having only one person get it. So what's the catch exactly? Why shouldn't we value experience? Let's follow along with the Challenger Nautilus gameplay for an example. The early game of this game is definitely a crazy one. Not only is there a non-standard bot lane with a Veigar and a Pyke being the carries, but there are multiple teleports and roams towards bot lane from both sides. What happens here isn't particularly important, rather it's what happens afterwards that makes all the difference. Most players would probably look at the map here and think, okay great, my mid laner isn't in lane so I can't exactly do anything around that, and the bot wave is probably going to come crashing back to me and I should be there to catch the experience for that. But if you're in a challenger mindset here, you don't really care about going back towards bottom. Nautilus is already level 3, and supports in general have the least valuable level ups in the game. You really just get spikes at level 3 and level 6 for the most part, and because he's so far away from that, he's just trying to take advantage of the spike that he does have now and use it immediately. Now Nautilus just runs towards topside, something that most players wouldn't dream of doing. He unfortunately can't quite prevent his top laner from getting dove, but even after that, he just runs towards mid. At this point, everyone probably sees the huge wave crashing bottom and wants to go catch that. But not this Nautilus. He just sticks around mid and even hovers for the dive that his team is going to do. After that, he walks back into river and clears a pink ward, and at this point, you're probably thinking, surely he should just go back to lane right now, right? Even still, it's just not necessary. He now runs all the way back to topside and assists in counter jungling the enemy camps before finally deciding to recall over 2 minutes later from when he was last bot lane. Alright, so this definitely looks ridiculous, and Nautilus didn't even gain anything out of it. He actually didn't get any experience at all except for the ward, not for hovering to try and stop a dive, not for hovering to assist in a dive, and not for helping the counter jungle. But even though he wasn't rewarded at all for this on the scoreboard or with any gold really, why was it still a good play? Something that isn't numerically available and easy to see in a statistic is pressure. Challenger supports value the ability to prevent plays, zone champions out of fights, and prepare for worst case outcomes very highly. By just existing in areas, Nautilus forces the enemies to play around him. Just because he isn't actually getting kills or doing anything that shows up on the scoreboard, it doesn't mean that he achieved nothing. He allowed the rest of his team to get ahead. In fact, giving solo experience over to your laning partner can be extremely beneficial sometimes. When Nautilus does go back bottom, he's actually 3 levels down on his Pyke, but that's fine. It actually opens up new plays for them. This level disparity actually allows them to find a pick onto the enemy carry, solely because Pyke has ultimate available, and it's likely that if Nautilus had been in lane the whole time, this wouldn't have happened. They might be both level 5, and the difference in power between that or one level 6 and one lower level laner is huge. And this was actually the worst case scenario. Nautilus actually got nothing individually for his roam, but there are lots of cases where roams will pay off big time in the form of kills. We need to think of experience as a limited resource. There are only so many jungle camps, minion waves, and objectives within the game that we have access to, and these are all time gated unfortunately. The only thing that isn't a finite source of experience is kills, and by roaming and setting up for that, or even by denying experience by zoning people off waves or their jungle camps, you can have insane snowballing potential within a game. Essentially, because roaming both allows you to deny that limited experience from the opponents while simultaneously creating new ways for you and your team to gain XP, it's just exceptionally strong, and you should be willing to give up that guaranteed income stream from sitting in your lane all the time because you just don't really need it all that badly when compared to the benefits that you can gain from not being there. I'm definitely not saying to leave your lane and never come back when you hit level 3, but it's just an option that you need to consider more heavily than you probably are at the moment. The difference between supports who leave lane like this and those who don't is actually game breaking, and that brings me to my next point pretty nicely. The second thing I wish I knew is to use your jungler to create plays. Oftentimes, supports will complain that their junglers just aren't doing anything, and part of this comes from the expectation that your jungler is going to play around you. It is simply way easier to play around others on your team. That way, you have the final say in what plays you do and don't go for. If you see your jungler just finishing their Gromp and they don't have other camps up, it's realistic to assume that they can only really do a few things like looking to gank, invade, or do dragon. It's in these positions that it's in your best interest to try and give them these things to do through using numbers advantage. As a support, this is your greatest asset because you're not forced to be in lane all the time. You can preemptively move to these things, set up the vision right before they get there, and make life a lot easier for your jungler. This removes a ton of responsibility from them and makes it way less likely for them to just int. You can't exactly force your jungler to come gank your lane, especially if it's not likely for it to work. So you can easily just move around the map, and this way, you'll at least have something to do besides just spam pinging and praying that they gank for you. For example, if we pay attention to what both supports are doing at this time, they're both just hugging their junglers. Reminder that this is in Challenger, so the fact that both supports are doing this means that they can kinda just cancel each other out. But in low elo, people will sit in lane all the time. If you just try to move even a little bit to your jungler's plays, things will work out so much better for you. Not only because the enemy support won't be doing it too, but because no one plays around it. Every time a support recalls in Challenger, it's pretty much assumed that they can go anywhere on the map. But this level of awareness isn't present until much higher up in the ladder. Trust me when I say that your junglers will be typing support gap, because they have never played with anyone who actively spent the whole game just trying to make their lives easier. Alright, that brings us to the third thing, which is the concept of a vision line. Most supports think that a main component of their job is to get vision, and they'd be correct. You have the most access to wards, so naturally you're probably going to be responsible for actually going and putting most of them down. Because of this, it's imperative that you actually know where to put your wards and how to play around them. If we take a look at Platinum 1 solo queue, we can find examples where the supports had huge chances to get ahead and simply just didn't. Leona is walking out of base in the mid game, and at this point, 3 out of 5 of the enemy team is dead. So we have a ton of time to basically place whatever vision we want. It's not a matter of being scared to do it, Leona just clearly doesn't know what to do here. If we think about what the team is going to want to play for in the next bit, we can come up with a couple of potential answers. Because the bot lane tower is already dead and Dragon is down, we clearly want to focus our attention on top side. With MF already being top and mid tier 1 still up, this leaves us with a few ideas. Playing for mid tier 1 comes to mind, as well as the top tier 2. In addition, the enemy's jungle camps as well as Rift Herald are objectives that we can aim to get. So if all 4 of these things are potential plays for us, where do we need to ward? The easiest thing to do in this situation is create a line of vision that extends past where you need to be to execute your play. In this case, wards like these would help tremendously. The main reason being that for all 4 of these potential plays, we will always have a way to retreat from them, and we can catch people contesting our plays beforehand. One of the worst things that can happen is you getting flanked and having someone end up behind you, unknowingly running straight into them. Especially on squishy champions like Janna or Soraka, that opponents want to focus down. By ensuring that you create a literal line of vision past where you need to be, you can enable all these plays and keep your options open while simultaneously preventing those flanks from happening. A big component of this comes from also shoving out your waves. If you push top and mid here, it extends the line even further, making it much safer. If Leona had known this, she would have felt the need to expand her vision line as she walked in earlier to hit the vision plant, but she didn't. She left without pushing the line up at all. Much too often, low elo supports will just walk into unwarded areas without giving the enemies the benefit of the doubt that they could be there. Not only did Pyke face check a bush with 0 vision behind it, he also didn't bother to ward over the wall to attempt to create a currently non-existent vision line. Ultimately, this leads to his ADC getting picked off and dying for free. Information is power, and a game like League, where you often are missing tons of pieces of the puzzle, it's important to not only play around the fact that you don't know things, but do your best to also find out as much as you can. We just scratched the surface of these three concepts, but the idea is that over time and as you're conscious about them, you can work to improve on them, and now more easily identify mistakes that you might have not even noticed before. League is a complex game, and it's very hard. There's obviously more than 3 things needed in order to get to the top, but these 3 are probably some of the biggest, and if you don't know where to start on improving, they're great points to begin at.
So you might be asking yourself, why go to SkillCapped.com to improve when I could just watch YouTube guides or play the game? Well, let me show you. Let's say you're a support who's struggling to climb the ladder. Not only would you get over 40 site-exclusive courses for support, but maybe really what you've been struggling with is trading as support. Well, we got you covered with 6 different courses breaking down how to trade as a support player. Not only do we have the largest catalog of guides for League of Legends in the entire world with over 1,500 videos to watch, but these are then curated by the top coaches and players into courses on every skill and topic you need to master in order to truly improve and climb the ladder. If all of this wasn't enough, we haven't even touched on our catalog of over 700 Smurf commentaries, where a challenger expert shows you how to climb out of your rank, and you're guaranteed to get any questions answered by them directly. Not to mention, we're the only service to offer a rank improvement guarantee. If you don't climb at least 5 divisions while actively using SkillCapped, you can claim a refund, no questions asked. So what are you waiting for? Head to SkillCapped.com and get the rank you've always wanted. Link in the description below.
With that, thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.